So this is Steve, and I'm here with Lewis Griffin, who is running for the Allen County Superior Court Criminal Division Judge against, currently it's Ken Scheibenberger, who's on the bench right now. We appreciate your time today for sitting down with us, talking with us a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about what your background is like.
My background. Let's say I'll be selective because we'll be here all day. Basically, I'd say my background quickly is I do come from a working class family. I grew up on the East Coast. I've been in Allen County almost 25 years coming February. And my father was a man that always wanted to be in business for himself. He just had a problem just punching the clock. And one of his first businesses was a trash business where he bought an old dump truck and got some contracts and would just take trash out. We had fun after he dumped the trash and cleaned the truck. We all would ride in it, myself and my three sisters. And then he went on to a janitorial service in which he was quite successful in having a number of employees and trucks and contracts for cleaning homes as well as businesses. And that's where I think, probably true, that I got my work ethic, and that we all had to help in cleaning floors, cleaning windows, and it was no free lunch. My father, it was clear when we ate dinner, we saw the connection between that food on our table and how it got there. It wasn't like any entitlement, so we all felt that. I used to ride my bike before school, high school, 14 years old, had 2 offices to clean. But I just wanted to explain that just briefly, that that has sort of set the tone in my whole life as I go forward. But just quickly, after college, I was a 6th grade school teacher, and that was lots of fun, and that's where I found out a lot about myself, because you're there under the spotlight and microscope in front of kids all day. And I took that job so serious. I would seldom did I come home right after school. My wife, I was married, and I'd always be in the homes of some of these children just to see what's going on, and the kind of impact their environment was having on them. And I did that for 2 years, and then I graduated into a high school counselor. I was a high school counselor for 4 years, and here again, it wasn't enough for me to be involved with the kids in the school environment. I was often in the homes and involved in a lot of community activities, hopefully to support our kids. And in doing so, I would go to court quite a bit with some of the kids. We would have some challenges with the law here and there. But I think somewhere along the line, when I was very young, I also developed a keen sense of justice, in that I was one of those guys that was picked on. I don't know if people can relate to that, being picked on. I just have problems with bullies. And somewhere along the line, my father told me what I needed to do in order to fight back. Basically, it was to pick up a stick, which in this case, it really was a hammer that I ran in the house because they were just beating me down. And I went back at the kids. So along the way, I sort of became a champion of the person who was singled out, and I don't know, just having their rights violated as far as just having some peace and tranquility. And I always had a problem with the bullies. So when I was teaching I was all over it. You know, I wanted our kids to be in that environment without any intimidation. The same way in high school. So I, after that, I determined I wanted to go to law school because I wanted to get more of a feel on how things worked. And the law seemed like everything ended up in court one way or the other. So going to law school, I was married, had 2 children, and I graduated from Quinnipiac University School of Law, and that's in Hamden, Connecticut. It's just on the outskirts of New Haven, Connecticut, where Yale's in New Haven. I went to Quinnipiac, and most people have heard of Quinnipiac because during the election season, there's always Quinnipiac election polls. I'm probably the only one that around here that knows what's going on. This is Quinnipiac election polls. But I had to go at night, and I worked also third shift as a union factory worker. I had to work, and I was lucky enough after a couple of years in the factory that the corporation found out about this guy out there in the factory working who was a counselor, teacher, and who was in law school. So they enticed me to come to the front office to work in their union relations, in their labor relations for management. I'd already been in the union, so I understood the dynamics of all of that on the shop floor. Our plant had about 5,000 employees. It was United Technologies. So, and it was a Pratt & Whitney division, so they agreed to finish paying for my law school, let me continue to go at night, so that was really exciting. So what I did was, when there were situations in the work environment, whether it was the salaried employees who were non-union or the union employees, I would generally be in the midst of that. Oftentimes they had to do with performance of the employees, and I'd have to advise and approve what management did. So I got promoted out here 24 years ago when United Technology bought Essex here. And when I worked for Essex, I was doing the same kind of work, human resource, labor relations, union, dealing with grievances, arbitrations, those kind of things. And I had about a 7-state responsibility and a number of bargaining units, within those states, from New Hampshire to South Carolina to Tennessee, Illinois. I was all over the lot. But 2 years after I got here, United Technology, they sold off Essex, and there was a decision. United Technology wanted me to return to Connecticut, but I told them I really liked the people here, and they couldn't understand that. We didn't want to be out there at those Hicks. I said, "What Hicks?" I said, "These are, good people, hard-working people." And I felt so comfortable out here, and I said, it's easier to get to know people here than I did on the East Coast. So I stayed. And then after a few years, I resigned and went into law practice. This was in '92. And so my law practice started out with sort of employee relations kinds of representation, sometimes for corporations, sometimes for plaintiffs who felt that they weren't treated right